Namaste, Dandava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Mahārāja, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 21, Text 7. Sa evam adhinyana vadya chestita karmani bhuyamsi mahan mahatmaha kurvan shashasvani mandalam yasa svitam nidhayaruruhe parampadam. King Pṛthu was greater than the greatest soul and was therefore worshipable by everyone. He performed many glorious activities in ruling over the surface of the world and was always magnanimous. After achieving great success and a reputation which spread throughout the universe, he at last obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. A responsible king or chief executive has many responsible duties to attend to in ruling over the citizens. The most important duty of the monarch or government is to perform various sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literatures. The next duty of the king is to see that every citizen executes the prescribed duties for his particular community. It is the king's duty to see that everyone perfectly executes the duties prescribed for the Varna and Ashram divisions of society. Besides that, as exemplified by King Pṛthu, he must develop the earth for the greatest possible production of food grains. There are different types of great personalities. Some are positive great personalities, some are comparative, and some are superlative. But King Pṛthu exceeded all of them. He is therefore described as Mahatma, greater than the greatest. Maharaj Pṛthu was a Kshatriya and he discharged his Kshatriya duties perfectly. Similarly, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, and Sudras can discharge their respective duties perfectly and thus at the end of their life be promoted to the transcendental world, which is called Parampadam. Parampadam, or Vaikuntha, can be achieved only by devotional service. The impersonal Brahman region is also called Parampadam, but unless one is attached to the personality of Godhead, one must again fall down to the material world from the impersonal Parampadam situation. It is said, therefore, Aruya Kritrena Parampadam Tata. The impersonalists endeavor very strenuously to achieve the Parampadam, or impersonal Brahmajyoti, but unfortunately being bereft of a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they come down again to the material world. If one flies in outer space, he can go very high up, but unless he reaches a planet, he must come down again to earth. Similarly, because the impersonalists who reach the Parampadam of the impersonal Brahmajyoti do not enter into the Vaikuntha planets, they come down again into this material world and are given shelter in one of the material planets. Although they may attain Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, all such planets are situated in the material world. Text 8. Sutta Ubhacha Tad Adi Rajasya Yaso Vidrimbitam Gunar Aseshar Gunavat Sabhajitam Chatha Mahabhagavata Sadashpate Kosoravim Praha Grantam Archayan. Sutta Goswami continued, O Sanaka, leader of the great sages, after hearing Maitreya speak about the various activities of King Pṛthu, the original king, who was fully qualified, glorified and widely praised all over the world, Vidura, the great devotee, very submissively worshipped Maitreya Rishi and asked him the following question. Text 9. Vidura uvacha subhishikta pradur viprar labdhasesha surarhana bibratsa vaishnavam tejo bhavoryabhyam dudhogam. Vidura said, "My dear Brahmana Maitreya, it is very enlightening to understand that the king Pṛthu was enthroned by the great sages and Brahmanas. All the demigods presented him with innumerable gifts, and he also expanded his influence upon personally receiving strength from Lord Vishnu. Thus he greatly developed the earth." Purport. Because Pṛthu Maharaj was an empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu and was naturally a great Vaishnava, devotee of the Lord, all the demigods were pleased with him and presented different gifts to help him in exercising his royal power. And the great sages and saintly persons also joined in this coronation. Thus, blessed by them, he ruled over the earth and exploited its resources for the greatest satisfaction of the people in general. This has already been explained in the previous chapters regarding the activities of King Pṛthu. As will be apparent from the next verse, every executive head of state should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Pṛthu in ruling over his kingdom. Regardless of whether the chief executive is a king or president, or whether the government is monarchical or democratic, this process is so perfect that if it is followed, everyone will become happy. And thus it will be very easy for all to execute devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 10. Konvasya kirtim nashranoti habigyo yadvikramochestam asesha bhupa lokasapala upajivanti kamam adhyapi tanme vada karma shudham. Pṛthu Maharaj was so great in his activities and magnanimous in his method of ruling that all the kings and demigods on the various planets still follow in his footsteps. Who is there who will not try to hear about his glorious activities? I wish to hear more and more about Pṛthu Maharaj because his activities are so pious and auspicious. Purport. Saint Vidura's purpose in hearing about Pṛthu Maharaj over and over again was to set an example for ordinary kings and executive heads, who should all be inclined to hear repeatedly about Pṛthu Maharaj's activities, in order to also be able to rule over their kingdoms or states very faithfully, for the peace and prosperity of the people in general. Unfortunately, at the present moment, no one cares to hear about Pṛthu Maharaj or to follow in his footsteps. Therefore, no nation in the world is either happy or progressive in spiritual understanding, although that is the sole aim and objective of human life. Text 11. Maitreya uvacha Gangaya munayor nadyor Antara chetram avasan Arhabdhan eva bhubuje Bhogan punyaji hasaya. The great saintly sage Maitreya told Vidura, "My dear Vidura, King Pṛthu lived in the tract of land between the two great rivers, Ganges and Yamuna. Because he was very opulent, it appeared that he was enjoying his destined fortune in order to diminish the results of his past pious activities." Purport. The terms pious and impious are applicable only in reference to the activities of an ordinary living being. But Maharaj Pṛthu was a directly empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, he was not subject to the reactions of pious or impious activities. As we have already explained previously, when a living being is specifically empowered by the Supreme Lord to act for a particular purpose, he is called Shakti Avesh Avatar. Pṛthu Maharaj was not only a Shakti Avesh Avatar, but also a great devotee. A devotee is not subjected to the reactions resulting from past deeds. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. For devotees, the results of past pious and impious activities are nullified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words arabdhan, eva, mean as if achieved by past deeds. But in the case of Pṛthu Maharaj, there was no question of reaction to past deeds. And thus the word eva is used here to indicate comparison to ordinary persons. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Avajananti mam mudha. This means that sometimes people misunderstand an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be an ordinary man. The Supreme Godhead, his incarnations or his devotee, may pose themselves as ordinary men, but they are never to be considered as such. Nor should an ordinary man, not supported by authorized statements of Shastras and Acharyas, be accepted as an incarnation or a devotee. By the evidence of Shastra, Sanatana Goswami detected Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be a direct incarnation of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although Lord Chaitanya never disclosed the fact. It is therefore generally recommended that the Acharya, or Guru, should not be accepted as an ordinary man. Text 12. Sarvatras kalitadesha saptadvi paikadandadrik anyatra brahmana kulad anyatrachyuta gotrata. Maharaj Pṛthu was an unrivaled king and possessed the scepter for ruling all the 7 islands on the surface of the globe. No one could disobey his irrevocable orders but the saintly persons, the Brahmanas and the descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Vaishnavas. Purport. Saptadvip refers to 7 greater islands or continents on the surface of the globe: Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, and Oceania. In the modern age, people are under the impression that during the Vedic period, or the prehistoric ages, America and many other parts of the world had not been discovered. But that is not a fact. Pṛthu Maharaj ruled over the world many thousands of years before the so-called prehistoric age. And it is clearly mentioned here that in those days not only were all the different parts of the world known, but they were ruled by one king, Maharaj Pṛthu. The country where Pṛthu Maharaj resided must have been India, because it is stated in the 11th verse of this chapter that he lived in the tract of land between the rivers Ganges and Yamuna. This tract of land, which is called Brahmavarta, consists of what is known in the modern age as portions of Punjab and northern India. It is clear that the kings of India once ruled all the world and that their culture was Vedic. The word askalita indicates that orders by the king could not be disobeyed by anyone in the entire world. Such orders, however, were never issued to control saintly persons or the descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. The Supreme Lord is known as Achyuta, and Lord Krishna is addressed as such by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Senhayor ubayor madhye ratam stapaya mechuta. Achyuta refers to one who does not fall, because he is never influenced by the modes of material nature. When a living entity falls down to the material world from his original position, he becomes Chuta, which means that he forgets his relationship with Achyuta. Actually, every living entity is part and parcel, or a son, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When influenced by the modes of material nature, a living entity forgets his relationship and thinks in terms of different species of life. But when he again comes to his original consciousness, he does not observe such bodily designations. This is indicated in Bhagavad Gita 5.18 by the words Pandita Samadarshana. Material designations create differentiation in terms of caste, color, creed, nationality, etc. Different gotras or family designations are distinctions in terms of the material body. But when one comes to Krishna consciousness, he immediately becomes one of the Achyuta Gotra, or descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus becomes transcendental to all considerations of caste, creed, color, and nationality. Pṛthu Maharaj had no control over the Brahmana Kula, which refers to the learned scholars in Vedic knowledge, nor over the Vaishnavas, who are above the considerations of Vedic knowledge. It is therefore said, Arche Vishno Shiladir Gurushu Nara Matir Vaishnave Jati Buddhir Vishnor Vaishnavanam Kalimala Matane Padhatirtem Buddhai Shri Vishnur Namni Mantri Shakala Kalusa He Shabda Samanya Buddhir Vaishno Sarveshvareshetad Itara Samadhir Yasya Nanakarisa. One who thinks the deity in the temple to be made of wood or stone, who thinks of the spiritual master and the disciplic succession as an ordinary man, who thinks the Vaishnava in the Achyuta Gotra to belong to a certain caste or creed, or who thinks of Charanamrita or Ganges water as ordinary water, is taken to be a resident of hell. This is from the Padma Purana. From the facts presented in this verse, it appears that people in general should be controlled by a king until they come to the platform of Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, who are not under the control of anyone. Brahmana refers to the one who knows Brahman, or the impersonal feature of the absolute truth, and Vaishnava is one who serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from text 13 on Friday. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navarut Dham Ki Jai, Nishingapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Nitai Gauda Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, Jai Sripad Nanda Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai.
Krishna Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev.
Dandavad Prabhuji.
Dhanavad Prabhu.